In order to help you get a better grade on the recorded informative speech coming up, I wanted to talk to you about my feelings after grading all the outlines. It does take me a little while. I have several classes with outlines to get in, but I get a whole array of interpretations, so that helps out too. So the purpose for this video is to help you get a better grade on your recorded speech. Okay. All right, so here's a couple of things that I'm looking at, and before we go over those things, I want to talk about the overall view of public speaking. It's what we're trying to accomplish here. The number one goal of public speaking is to have a thesis or a central idea. And then you develop that central idea with 3 points, okay? So that's it. That's it in a nutshell. A central idea developed with 3 points, okay? That's a basic speech, in effect. So how do we go about that? First, we refine that central idea into one single declarative sentence. And we don't want to have any connecting words like and, or, but, because, therefore, however, so that, so forth. You know, anything that starts to make it a complex sentence. In writing, you can do that, but in public speaking, we can't, because it's hard to hold the audience's attention. And people in the audience, their minds are wandering. They got other things to think about. And if we're giving a complex idea or a complex sentence, it makes it much harder. Now, these things can be done. However, you've got to master the basic public speaking skills first. So the idea is to have one clear central idea and then support it with at least 3 points. All right, so that's what we're doing. That's why we went through the topic selection. We went through the front matter to set our goals and come up with a central idea, and then we use that central idea in the outline. All right. So, and the way we support those with the 3 points is we do a main point, we do evidence, and we do an example. So point, evidence, example. Point, evidence, example. Now the way I've structured here for ours, we're doing point, evidence, example, evidence, example. Point, evidence, example, evidence, example. So we have a nice consistent format so the audience knows what we're saying. Now, the biggest mistake I saw in the outlines was in the evidence bullet points, where people were not saying the words according to. The reason we use evidence in the outline or in the speech is to build our credibility, or to have the audience answer the question, who else says so besides you? Okay, so when you say something, you say 35,000 X, whatever it is, you know, use the number, you have to cite that source. Where did you get that from? I don't believe you if you made it up, so where did you get it? So you cite it. And in writing, there's several ways to cite, and you incorporate a whole lot of different ways throughout your essay when citing. Otherwise, you're going to be too repetitive to the reader. But speaking of readers, if a reader gets confused, they go back and reread. But if a listener and an audience gets confused, they can't go back and re-listen. So we've got to try to make sure that they don't get confused. So what we do is we start our evidence off with the words according to. Okay, according to the American Dentist Association, 3 out of 4 dentists recommend Dentyne. Okay, that's what we say, according to. That's our oral footnote. That's how we cite, according to. I don't want you to use any other form of citation. Not now, not at this point, not at this level. According to. According to the American Dental Association, 3 out of 4 dentists recommend Dentyne. Okay. According to Time Magazine, Barack Obama was Man of the Year. All right, so use those types of things, according to. A lot of people were not using according to. That's what makes the evidence bullet point evidence. According to, then we cite a source, and the source is our evidence. Okay, and then we have to go on and say what the source says. I had several people just said according to, and then they'd put a publication, and then that's it, nothing. I said, well, what's according to this publication? What is it that they're saying? Okay, and then your example actually gives an example of that evidence, okay, as we're using it here. So make sure we do it. So we do point, the main point, and the main point supports the thesis. And then we do evidence, a source, starting off the words according to. Then we say what it is, what the evidence is, and then we give an example of that evidence. You know, and generally, to be a good, effective public speaker, what you do, your example is something you've experienced, something you've witnessed, something you've heard about, something you watched in a show, a movie, or anything. Some kind of connection you have to that evidence. Okay, so that's what makes it interesting. You do a little narrative there. All right, so I think those are the biggest things. Then the other biggest mistake was the APA reference list. Most of you looked it up. A couple people didn't bother, but most of you did look it up. But one thing was lacking is all APA reference list and MLA reference list. They call it works cited in MLA, but APA is called references, and they're in alphabetical order. So be sure to put them in alphabetical order. Any entry that starts with a number, 35, 21, any number like that, you put at the top of the list, and then you begin with A, B, C. You can go alphabetically from there. All right. So to wrap this whole thing up, the main thing about public speaking is to have a central idea, and then you spend the speech developing that central idea, or your thesis. Okay, thesis, central idea are interchangeable. Then when you give an example, you got your 3 points that support that thesis, and each point has to have an evidence and an example. All the evidence starts out with the words according to. That's what makes them evidence. Okay, so you say according to, then you give the source. And the source should be a work, like an article, or it should be a person. Okay, and then if the article is written by the person's more famous than the article, cite the person. If the article is more famous than the person, cite the article. If neither one are more important than the other, cite one or the other. The rest of your information will be in your reference list for anybody in the audience if they ask more questions. All right. So then the example, you give an example by kind of explaining what that evidence meant, or how you interpreted the evidence. And you try to tie it into something personal that you've experienced. All right. And then the APA reference list is in alphabetical order. All right. If you follow these concepts when you record your speech, you'll do excellent. And I think maybe saying these a little more clear, or hopefully they're more clear, that you will be able to understand the whole process that we're going through so far. All right, so you're all doing good. This is a really kind of an extraordinary quarter because we're not losing anybody. Everybody's sticking into the class, so which is a good thing. All right, I think I've used up enough of your time. Go ahead and make sure to use those words according to for the evidence. And remember, got one more thing I just forgot. The attention getter has to be a narrative. Don't ask questions. Don't ask a series of questions. Don't ask one question. Get a little narrative. Some kind of a story about how you experienced your topic or didn't experience, something along those lines. And a mistake made. There's always, audiences like to hear about people making mistakes. So those would make a good story. So whatever works out for you. Do some kind of a narrative, though. Something where something happens. It doesn't have to be long. It can be 10, 15 seconds is all you need. But get a story there. Questions are too cliche. All right. Good luck to you. I look forward to hearing the speeches here starting next week. Okay, bye.